Alright, everybody, here we go. Under the hood, Dave's last one. Commentary. Come here, Tuck. Let's put some water out. She done drank up all the water. Let me get the girl some water. Oh, come here, buddy. Yep, get y'all some water right quick before I start talking, everybody. There you go. You thirsty because all the water was gone? There you some water. Gotta have a little water for the neighbor. Don't want her to get thirsty. Alright guys, I'm gonna do the last commentary here before we call it a day. Won't tell. Alright, I've spoken quite a bit about the letter I wrote that Rush Limbaugh read. I didn't send that letter to Rush Limbaugh. And this is probably going to cause some of y'all some alarm if you're in the disability process. What had happened, my hip went out. Well, I told you about the clogged vessel that they missed. And I went to file on my VA again. So the first visit, this is in 2002, first visit to the VA, which I had to hitchhike down there to Birmingham, the doctor looked at me and kind of whispered in a hush-hush type way, sign up for your Social Security disability. And he just looked at me and I said, my Social Security? He said, because you were on the ship when this happened, they should have already given you this. And that's all he said. So that's what I did. So when I filed on my Social Security, I was having all this trouble, man. They was doing everything I told you about. Police following me around, harassment, intimidation, one thing after another, constant. I wrote it all down. It's 3, 4, 5 pages, something like that. I can't remember how many. It says like 2002. And that letter that Rush Limbaugh read was in those Social Security paperwork. Now in 2002, why was Rush Limbaugh reading paperwork that had been turned in to the Social Security on a disability claim? That's a federal and state violation. You can't do that. But what was I going to do? Just this poor person broke down hip and all that, right? That was their preempt for a roundabout way offering me $250,000 or $300,000 for making Reagan look like Jesus. But this is what I'm trying to tell you. Maybe you should ask Adderholt how a person who filed on disability right there in his town, his district, where he had a seat at that time in the courthouse, and him and Judge Roy Moore, doing all this Ten Commandments talking and all this stuff, how was a man's disability paperwork being read on a right-wing media talk show? You understand what I'm saying? That's one huge violation, brothers and sisters. You don't do that. But I've never mentioned that until today. There was a lot of stuff in those paperwork that they've been using against me. It told the truth about what happened with my family. It told the truth about what they were doing there in Gaston. All that. So, you guys got to understand something. These Congress people can get into every bit of the paperwork you got, whether you filed on Social Security disability, whether you filed, and they're big in VA. Every time I walk into a VA, I have people eyeball me like judges sizing me up. He's got to be a druggie. He doesn't do drugs. That's what they were trying to act like. I had turned that corporation in, and they were trying to make me look like a low-life human being. And at that time, a police officer in Gaston had just walked up, and a homeless person was asleep outside of a restaurant in the bush and just beat the crap out of him. That's what they were doing down there. So then, about that time, there was a top secret drug DEA investigation going on, and they busted a lot of people. All over 700 and something people, I think, got busted under one huge drug raid. All the way from Gaston up to Anniston, just everywhere. And I believe 6 police officers got busted in on that. But that's where that letter to the Social Security come from. To that Rush Limbaugh read. So, I don't know if you people, the investigator, whatever, could get a hold of that, if anybody wanted to investigate it. But that's the truth. That's what happened. And that paperwork to the Social Security office had every bit of that information. I did have. Like the VA wiped all their records. I don't know if y'all remember that. I got a note. If you have any record with the VA, you need to put them on blah, 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 because all of your old records are going to be transferred to data and put on chips. And the old is going to be thrown away. Oh, gee, thanks, right? So, that's how they kept me from getting my disability all the way up. Now, I got my Social Security. It took 2005 is when I finally got it. And it had to go in front of a judge before I got it. Right? But the judge gave me full disability on all points, on everything I claimed. And they had claimed all that in there. But that didn't help me with my VA. They had me blocked in. That I had to have new evidence. And this was from 1980. Where I was going to psychiatrists back then in 1980. But some of the craziest mess they was telling me was like I was a drug addict and I was lazy and that I'd done this to myself. I was on a Navy ship and had a full psychotic break in reality. And I had gone and went on this ship to get treatment. You know, you said there, oh yeah, you got those counselors, and they do. And I went to 3 of them. And you know what they did? Called me a bottom out alcoholic. I was on the flight deck, right? And I was starting to have some serious problem with my concentration. And the last place you want to have a problem with concentration is up under a live jet engine. People get sucked up in them things all the time. But I was really, my motor control was really suffering at that time. And this had gone on for 2 or 3 weeks before I went to see the counselor. And the counselor told me about drinking, and I told him I wasn't drinking. I hadn't been for a while. Because we was on a ship at sea. Ain't like you got bars everywhere. So they sent me to an alcohol clinic in Naples, Italy. Like a Alcohol Anonymous 12-step thing. Bad mistake. A person suffering from psychological problems like depression, anxiety, it's kind of familiar to alcoholism and what they do, but 20 times worse. You can't sit there and tell them. Now, there's a woman there, one of the NCO's wives, with depression, and she got treated like a queen because she was suffering from depression. Well, I was a bottomed out alcoholic, so I come out of there and they was cutting me down. I guess people from on the ship was telling me, ain't nothing wrong with him, he's just lazy, he don't want to do his job. And that stuck, man, in my record. So then they sent me back to the ship. after just getting rowdy, I wasn't trying to get over alcoholism. I didn't want to change. And here I was, not drinking nothing, not doing nothing. And half of them people in there, even on them islands, gave them all these drinking pills make you sick. They'd go out and drink anyway. Right there while they was in it. And I brought that up in their little roundhouse they have where they all cut me down. You need to change this, you need to change that. And I was like, man, I don't care what you think. I couldn't even feel nothing. They trying to say all this mess, mate, couldn't feel nothing, did from his neck down. And that's where they got the alcoholism from. So I go back to the ship. They send me back. And I just can't function. Before I had went to the alcohol place in Naples, I had TDY'd over to the filter cleaning department on the ship. That's where you just go all over the ship, way down in the bowels everywhere, cleaning the air filters. And it's a pretty good job. I mean, you get to see what a ship looks like, I'll tell you that much. Anyway, I deteriorated worse and worse when I got back on. I got to where I wasn't even able to function. I was going catatonic. And all I got was I was lazy. And even finally it got down to the end when I was going to the sick bay on the ship. They were calling me a faker and all kind of stuff. And one of the, I don't know what it was, a nurse. I don't know what you call a nurse on a ship. Gouged my right eye with his thumb. And which that caused me to go violent when I went catatonic. And anybody come near me or touch me, I'd swing up and hit them. I guess because I thought he was going to do that again. Anyway, all this long period of time, 6 weeks, I think, or 3 weeks at the alcohol thing, I can't remember. The 2 or 3 weeks before that, and then like another 2 or 3 weeks of going catatonic, and then finally going psychotic, complete break. And I get to the Eglin Air Force Base after 2 or 3 mental hospitals in the military, in the Navy and Army. And they send you around to like Frankfurt, Germany, and I think another somewhere, I don't know where that was. I wasn't there long. I was in there long enough just to transfer, I guess. And then I woke up in a lockdown cell, rubber room, in Eglin, Florida. And that's where I got accused after all this time. It's finally breaking, going catatonic, and I was a drug addict. It had to be drugs. Guys I was talking about the other day, we had a bad problem with smoking that old elephant tranquilizer stuff. I can't think of PCP or something like that. Anyway, that's what they accused me of being on. So, all that, they erased, changed, and even got my paperwork from Social Security that I turned in. I don't know now if Social Security's got my paperwork or what these freaks do with them. Right? Well, I'm telling you the truth for it. I ain't no lie. And if you can get my paperwork, it'll back up every bit of it. And it'll tell you what they're doing then, along with all the other paperwork I've got. And like I've got a whole lot of pictures of where I've wrote police and everything else since then for help. And nobody has lifted a finger to help the bottom out drunk drug addict. How about that? All right, guys. Next video.